Next on the agenda, number 4, 2017-018. Be it resolved, having convened in an open meeting on Monday, February 6, 2017, prior to the closing date.
Motion to waive the reading by Council Pelletier.
No, I don't make that motion.
No.
Quincy City Council, in accordance with the charter, the bylaws, and the ordinances, have voted to authorize the Superintendent of Schools to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority a statement of interest.
Motion to waive the reading by Councilor Liang. Thank you, Councilor Liang.
And we're referring this, or?
I believe Paul Hines is here to speak on that.
Sorry, I figured Dr. Christopher was here as well. Fine, I'm a humble person. Councilors, this is something that the council has entertained in the past for other projects and other school buildings. It's a statement of interest being sent on to the Massachusetts School Building Authority. And this particular project is intended or hopeful to do a significant roof replacement at the North Quincy High School, and primarily the newer, the annex in the back, and the full boiler replacement in the Parker Elementary Schools. The school committee has acted on it, and we would ask that we vote favorably to authorize the presentment of that letter to the authority.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge Superintendent Christopher is here this evening in support of these measures as well. So thank you for coming, Dr. Christopher. Is there a motion? Yes, Councilor.
Just to be certain, Mr. Hines, this is actually the first step in the process, correct?
It is.
Okay.
Tonight does not involve the appropriation of funds.
Right.
Simply authorizing the statutory formula, the presentation to the authority of the statement.
These are two separate orders. I'd be happy to, on the first, move approval of 2017-8-18.
Okay, motion approved by Councilor Finn, seconded by Councilor Dwana on the motion. Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to ask a few quick questions on this one. Do you have, I know you're doing a statement of interest in the MSBA, do you have an approximation of where this is going to be for amount of, for the roof replacement at North Quincy High School, approximation of what would be the reimbursement from the MSBA, or if this, you just put the statement of interest in and then you get that information back?
The latter. We put the statement in and received that information back. But I can tell you that in-house, the Gary Cunningham, the Director of Engineering in our department, it's approximately 10,600 square feet of roofing at Quincy High School, with an approximate cost of $240,000. But adding to that, dealing with the rooftop units, the ventilation hoods, and the numerous skylights in that building, will put it in excess of the $250,000 minimum project consideration by the authority.
And to take it a step further, I know we've done a really nice job with the window replacements we've done in the last 2 years. The place looks phenomenal. When was the last time this roof was renovated, or when was the last time there was any work done?
These particular sections of the roof are over the cafeteria and the Hudson lobby, and over the art sections and such of the annexes, we'll call it. And they are believed to be original to the construction of that building in the late 70s, 1978, 1979.
So it's been
well past their expected.
Well past it. So the wear and tear on that is pretty significant. Wasn't there some rain damage in the basketball court area? Was there a leak going on over there in the last year?
Not through the gym roof, but through one of these adjacent roofs, yes.
Okay.
A Patrick Fayard roof that has patched it, but it's a sinking ship. There's significant water damage throughout these areas, and it's ongoing.
Thank you. I just happy to see something that we very much needed, because Quincy High School on the other side of the city is obviously a new facility, 2010. So I think the balance of getting over to North Quincy would be great. And I know that the ward council is not here right now, but I know that would be really nice for North Quincy side. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Devon. Councilor Liang.
Thank you, Madam President. I know the ward council is not here, but as a resident of North Quincy, I am very excited about the school improvement. So the work you guys do across the city and our schools are obviously very much appreciated. Not even outside the schools, but inside the schools is technology as well. And it's a work in progress, I think, with every project that comes in front of us when we renovate the schools. That being said, I know that you said this is the first step in the process. Can you just explain to me, let's say, best case scenario, you go out and you do the application today, what are we looking for as far as either months or weeks that you would then come back in front of us with a possible estimate that we have to look at?
Yes, I believe in the end of February, the authority will take this, well, mid-February, this statement will be received. They will administratively process it. And then the staff from the school building authority will come out to the sites and actually themselves with their engineers assess the condition of the facilities, the same thing they do at the Parker School or boiler room. They will seek to either agree or disagree or debate on the merits as presented in the statement, and will make a recommendation to the building authority. I can pretty firmly tell you it's not work that will be happening this year. If anything, it would be more likely the summer of 18.
So you're saying that this, if this does go through tonight, then we're not going to see a proposal or an estimate in front of us this year?
When we get back the information from the school building authority, we would of course process it as quickly as possible and present that to the council. It is conceivable that this year, well, certainly this year, some reason I think it's November, certainly in 2017, we'll be back to you at the next step in the process. But it's boots on the ground or actual undertaking and construction would more likely be 2018.
All right, sounds good. Well, I'm very excited to see that. So thank you again for the work you did. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor Liang. Anyone else wishing to be heard, Councilor Calhoun?
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Is this work, I see that the boilers are on that, the boiler heating and ventilation systems. Is that work that was affected by the Honeywell contract?
There were modifications to the building system by the Honeywell project, but they were not replacements at that time.
What was the work that Honeywell did that was
Primarily control systems. I believe they did the domestic water boiler. I won't say cut and patch. They did replace the control system, but it's not. It was not a good fit. It's not well functioning. We have a meeting there tomorrow morning.
And why is that? What's the issue with the functionality?
We're not really certain. That's one of the reasons for tomorrow's meeting. Whether it would be a commissioning issue at the time or a wiring issue, we're trying to decipher that as we go to get us through this anticipated next heating season until such time as the replacements are done.
Is there any fear that it's not going to get us through the remainder of the winter?
No, they'll survive. We'll get through this year and certainly get through next year with the efforts of Dave Scott and others in the department. But you know, it's tired, it's old, the controls are an issue. It's more of a control issue than it is a physical plant issue as far as operationally. But again, they are old, so they are not as efficient as they could be or should be. And they are at or surpassed their useful life. And at some point they will fail.
So when we're talking about replacement, renovation, or modification of the heating system, ventilation system, the boilers, we're specifically broad at this stage, correct?
That's the buzz language from the regulations, yes.
Okay, and that's
it would be our intention to do a replacement.
So, all right, that's what I was asking. So it's our intention to do a replacement. However, the way the process works, I would imagine, I don't recall when we did the windows what that process was, but going through Sterling and Central, you file, they do an assessment as to what they believe the necessary work and requirements are for it, and then you make a decision if that's how you're going to proceed. Is that similar when you're talking about physical plant situations?
They're similar, but they're different. There's two different tracks through the building authority. There's the core programs, which are the building replacements, and there's this newer program called the accelerated repair program. It's more of a streamlined process, less cumbersome, but there is still a bureaucracy to it. But it is a more timely process.
But that's the way the process works. They'll come out, or a third-party assessor will come out, take a look at what they think is needed, and then that's kind of how the application will proceed based on what they find the needs are. So we're saying our intention is replacement, but if they come out and they find the need is a control issue or repair rather than replacement, that would be their recommendation. We have to decide whether or not to move forward with their recommendation.
That would be a draft recommendation, and that's when the negotiation between the two sides begins. You know, you obviously make the argument it makes no sense to put $500,000 in controls into a 35-year-old boiler. It's more economical to change it up front. And be all new, involve more data control systems with the functionality of the mechanical systems. And that's why this language is broad, so whichever ultimately becomes the direction that you go, it's covered in this vote.
Right, that's why I was saying that, and that's why it's overly broad, is because if you want to take the widest approach, and then it happens to get narrowed down through the process, then it does, but you're not limiting yourself.
Correct. And ultimately, if we don't agree on what is the course of action, their determination really affects their funding. You know, if they determine that it really just needs an upgrade in new controls, but we're intent on new boiler, we can do the new boiler. They can't stop us. They're just not going to contribute funds towards that, but they would towards the other aspects.
And you're saying, is it a 35-year-old?
I believe that's the estimate. Actually, no, 1993 and 1994 they were put in. Not quite that old, but they do have leaking boiler sections, the valves have failed, control problems.
What's the natural life of them? Well, I recall when we were going through the Sterling process, and I may be mistaken, and you may not know, but I thought that boiler was like 80 years old.
Like it was. Some of the boilers are actually formerly coal-burning ones that were later converted to oil and have since been converted to gas. They're not very efficient. These aren't that old, but they're at, again, so by the fact that they're actually physically leaking, they're rotted through the cast iron walls, they're past their prime.
And what's the lifespan that we would anticipate from a new boiler? Like when we go to the new high school, what do we expect out of the boiler in the new high school?
I couldn't tell. I believe that's dependent upon what they spec for manufacturer, whether it's steam or whether it's hot water. It's dependent upon the variables of installation.
Is all the honey money gone?
Regrettably, it is.
Okay. But I believe you had said the Honeywell was the controls, it wasn't the replacement of the...
Correct.
And do you anticipate we'll need to replace the controls, or is the hope going to be that we can replace the systems and they'll be able to mesh technologically with the controls?
The control system that was installed is not satisfactory. It would be replaced with a new boiler.
So then arguably the money that we got in the settlement from Honeywell would have covered things like that. So did we set aside any money from that Honeywell settlement to cover such things?
We did. My predecessor did as the administration, but it's been expended. A significant portion of which went to Quincy High School repairs already.
And would the anticipated funding source for this be bonding, or would it be general fund obligation that we would add to a budget under a different line item moving forward in your tenure in the department?
I would leave that to Mark Kavanaugh, but I believe the anticipation would be the bonding. And then you're paying out the cost of it during the benefit of it.
Arguably. Because if we did that with the controls, it'd be less than 10 years old, and we'd already be replacing them. And we have a bond that's, 20 years that we're paying for them after we're on the second iteration of them.
Yes, but not sure the controls are actually designed to
Yeah, but I'm just
20
saying, theoretically, in terms of,
Yep.
that's the hope, is that we
Hope
bond
it's not
out.
40, but yeah.
Right, we bond out, we're paying over the course of time for the lifespan of a particular item, whether it's a fire truck or a police cruiser or a boiler in this instance. That's why it's always incredibly frustrating, disappointing when we have something that doesn't meet that anticipated lifespan and we're still paying for it.
One of the
while we're
challenges.
also paying for the replacement.
One of the challenges is the system's getting more and more sophisticated, which means
And
more and more
confusing.
chance for failure. Keep it simple is a good way to go, but unfortunately it's not happening in the building control system.
Lastly, what's the highest and best reimbursement percentage that they've given this particular program?
I believe it's the 60%, but I'm not certain of that. Again, this is unrelated to funding. I've not been at all in the position to investigate that at this point.
You just make the recommendations of what needs to be reviewed.
All we're doing now is seeking the authority to make the submission to the authority, seeking your authority to make it to the authority, and then the process begins.
Right, and no, I understand that, and it's not something that I think the body's going to say no to, but it's, I think, worth getting into it a little bit more than just simply saying yes, because once we say yes to this, which I anticipate doing, once we say this, we're at the top of the slope. Now we start to, head down, and it's not as if in 8 months, 6 months, when things have been negotiated, studies have been done, and it comes back before us for a bond authorization, that we're really in a position at that point to say, nah, forget it, we don't think this work is valuable. Now, to me, now would be the time for this body in its fiduciary capacity to say to the administration, the school department, to your department, that no, we don't think that this would be a good expenditure of city resources.
Again, there is no expenditure here. This is simply authorizing an application process.
Right.
There are many stop points in the future on these particular projects. One is the project funding agreement, which isn't the bond authorization. It's just agreeing to or not agreeing to the deal that's struck with the authority. Then there would be a separate bonding issue.
We don't do that.
The administration negotiates the deal based upon the state regs and the different formula that are applied, but it comes to the body. The state regulation requires that that agreement be approved by this body, the project funding agreement. And thereafter is a separate vote on actually funding.
Don't those usually come in with the bond authorization and the agreement?
Well, the agreement has to be first, so there's nothing to bond. They may come in simultaneously, but they are two separate steps, two separate votes.
Right, two separate votes. But they usually, my recollection is they usually come in, you know, number 2 on the agenda, number 3 on the agenda. No, the only point I was making is just that once we start the process, it's almost as if the body says, we're okay with the work, and then we'll talk about the cost later, that it's valuable to, and I'm not saying this particular project isn't valuable, I'm going to support moving forward, but I think we don't have the deep discussions about it at the outset.
Correct, but I think it's almost impossible to. We don't have the information to present to you on the financials until the studies are done, the negotiation is done, and the deal, tentative deal is struck. Any conversation about the finances before that is somewhat premature, other than to say it will be costly, but not nearly as costly if we don't follow this program.
I look at it like when you sit down and order a steak, you want to know how much the steak costs before you order it, not after you eat it and say, oh, really? That's how much? Because then you already ate the steak, you pretty much have to pay for it, unless you're really quick.
God willing.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk. Oh, Council Finn? did you have-
No.
Oh, okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Counselor King.
Yes.
Counselor Crowe. Counselor Vaughn.
Yes.
Counselor Finn.
Yes.
Counselor Harris. Counselor LaForest. Counselor Liang.
Yes.
Counselor Calhoun.
Yes.
President Hughes.
Yes.
6 members.
Thank you.
Now, I made that was for the first of the votes. There's a
Yes.
second one.
Yes, Council Finn.